hope you all are having a good conference. Welcome to my session called AI-Powered Selling, Copilot for Dynamics 365 Sales in Action. During this session, we're going to talk about some of the research features that are included in Dynamics 365 Sales that are Copilot driven or AI driven. And then we'll also talk about some of the Copilot activities, both the activities that are within Dynamics 365 itself, and then also the same activities, emails and appointments, that are available inside Microsoft Outlook using Copilot, the Copilot for Sales add-in. So let's get started. The Copilot Summaries feature is a very important feature because it allows us to research and see what's going on with leads, opportunities, other records within Dynamics 365 quickly. And if you look at some of the studies that are out there, and I have one here that I'm showing, is that getting in contact with a prospective client quickly is important. I'm kind of stating the obvious because at least this study is saying that if you can get a hold of a lead within the first 5 minutes, it increases conversion by 900%, or at least that's how they've quantified it. And I can tell you for a fact the second bullet point here about customers buying from the first company that contacts them is, I find that to be true because like Microsoft as a publisher provides us with some leads, but they don't want to be biased, so they provide us with leads, but they also send that same information to other companies that are similar to us. And so typically, if I'm the first person reaching out to them and having a conversation about what their needs are, more likely than not, they're not going to follow up with those other people. So having that quick summary of the record and what the activities are that you've done so far is super important because it kind of grounds you as to this is where we're at within the sales process at this particular point in time. So early on in a lead, it could just be a summary of the company, their capabilities, and then as you progress through the sales cycle, so when a lead becomes qualified, turns into an opportunity, or we're starting to prepare quotes or whatever the case may be, that summary becomes more rich and robust because it's also taking into consideration all of the activities and other information that has been input into Dynamics 365 so that you can quickly see where you're at and start the conversation from that context. We're just kind of picking up where we left off. So some of the capabilities in that summary, if we look here, this is just a quick screenshot of an opportunity summary, and it's kind of divided up into these different sections, these 6 sections here. So in the first section, it's basically just summary information about the opportunity itself. But the second section, number 2 there, it actually has all of the latest activities, and they're summarized activities. So an activity, as we're going to see, is emails, appointments, but it could also be notes, it could be tasks, it could be other custom activities that you all have. And you'll see after each one of those 4 bullet points, there's a little footnote or a little 1, 2, 3, 4. And what that allows the user to do is very quickly click on that and drive back into the details of that note or that appointment, etc. Because it's just summarized information. So if you want to see more information, you have a hyperlink through that number to drill back into the details. And then sometimes inside organizations, sales managers or other people want to see a quick update on what's happening with a particular opportunity or particular quote. And so that third icon there just allows you to copy the information and paste it into an email, paste it into a report, whatever it is that you might need to see. And then 4, because sometimes, especially if activities are coming in and they're associated to a particular opportunity because Dynamics 365 or Copilot guesses as to what the opportunity is, you might need to change that because maybe it guesses incorrectly. One of the things with AI is teaching AI, and so by correcting it and changing the opportunity that it's associated with or the record that it's associated with, Copilot will use that in the future to make better guesses, if you will. So each time it gets more and more accurate, if you will. And then, how do you know that you have to change it? Well, that's why 5 comes into place, is because that's the topic of the opportunity in this case. It could be the topic of the lead, the name of the quote, whatever the case may be. And then finally, the feedback of the thumbs up, thumbs down. That's also telling Copilot from an AI perspective, how accurate is this information? Is this really good? Thumbs up. If it's not, thumbs down. And it takes that feedback, incorporates that into future results. So besides the summary of just kind of what's happening with a particular sales opportunity in this case, you may also want to see what has changed in an opportunity since the last time that you looked at it. And so we can quickly ask Copilot, we can prompt Copilot and say, like in this prompt here, what changed with this since the last time? And now you have to have auditing turned on within Dynamics 365. And if you don't have that turned on right now, or not all of the fields that you need to return results have been tracked, we can certainly help you with that and let us know. And if you don't need help, I mean, you can go to Microsoft Learn and see what needs to be done in order to enable that. So the other kind of nice thing about these summaries is that I might not always be at my desk or at my computer. I might be out in the field. So if I'm an outside rep and I'm working out in the field, all of this is also mobile enabled. So here we're looking at Copilot inside Microsoft Outlook. That's part of an app that's available on the iOS or the iPhone platform, or the Android platform for Samsung Galaxies or anything like that. I'm certainly not suggesting that these one phone is better to another, but just know that the app itself is cross-platform. And so all of the capabilities that we have within the browser-based or the desktop-based application are also available from the mobile app itself. So we can see that information, and then we can use that information, update it. So maybe I have a call with a particular prospect. I go back, I hop in my car. Before I start the car up to drive to my next appointment, I open up my mobile app and I go ahead and put in some information about, what are the things that we discussed, what are the next steps, etc. So while it's not technically branded as AI or Copilot, there's been a feature inside Dynamics 365 Sales for a long time. And it's really in that little pane that's over on the right-hand side. But let me kind of pop that up to show you a little bit more information. So what this is useful for is sometimes in sales, we get a lead that comes in, but we don't have a relationship with this person. But because the Who Knows Whom feature is inside Dynamics 365, it can tell me that there are other people inside my organization that have had some sort of email exchange or some sort of communication with that person, and I might be able to use these people to get me a warm introduction to talk to them, because maybe they talked to Jonathan Moore about fantasy football or whatever the case may be. And I can use Jonathan to introduce me into there and give me some credibility or credentials before I walk on in. So what it does is it actually looks at all of the emails that are in your Microsoft 365 tenant, or Outlook or Exchange, however you want to call it. It's not looking at the details of what they're writing in these emails or anything like that. It's just strictly the volume of messages of emails back and forth that determine how likely they are, or how the strength of that relationship. So that little bar across the right-hand side, where we only have kind of a couple red bars there, so it'll turn to yellow, then turn into green. So it's kind of the traffic light type indicators that indicate the strength of relationship. But once again, it's not looking at the details of it, because some clients worry about that and say, I don't want AI reading all my messages. I just, this is a useful tool. So just know that Microsoft has put some safeguards around data security and privacy and everything else. And so that is something that you can use. It has to be turned on by an administrator. So if you're not an administrator, you're going to need to go to your system administrator, and really you're also your exchange administrator to turn these things on. But very useful tool, because sometimes you find out that there's people inside your organization that are talking to these folks and you didn't even know about it, and that can give you a leg up or help you kind of accelerate some growth and revenue. So we're not a big firm on talking about things that are in Microsoft Preview. So Preview is, it's out, you can use it, but Microsoft says we might not move forward with it, so we might cancel it and the feature disappears, or we might change the way that it works. But we're getting closer and closer to these things going from a preview status into general availability, or it's in production. So I did want to kind of cover these two things here, because there's two things, two agents that can be configured automatically within Dynamics 365. And that's our sales qualification agent and the opportunity research agent. Now there's some configuration involved in it, but it walks you through the process. So as you go through to create the agent, it's going to default some settings depending on which agent you pick. And then you're going to have to answer some configuration questions as you're going along. So you're going to need to know a little bit about what's, some of the technical side of things inside your organization. But if we look at the sales qualification agent, there's really two modes that agent can work in. It can work in what's called research only mode. And so it automates the research of lead qualification. It looks at the leads based upon selection criteria, like the lead source or their geography or something like that. And then it provides insights about that lead, their background, recent opportunities inside your organization, news about the company that might be publicly available through like their website or other channels. And so it surfaces that research information once again to make it easier for the seller to digest that information and get in touch with that particular lead or that particular prospect as quickly as possible. The other option there is all of the research features that I was talking about, but also what's called engage mode. And what that does is it takes all of that research and then crafts emails directly to that lead, automated, so unattended, that tries to move things forward quickly. And then there's some criteria as to when you want the AI agent to stop engaging as far as emails and things like that, and turn it over to somebody on your sales team to focus on actively selling into that particular lead or that particular prospect. So a couple options to consider as far as that agent goes. The other one is that opportunity research agent. It takes into consideration some of the research things that I've talked about with regards to leads, but it also is looking at risks. So, what's one of the big things in sales that people are worried about? Well, I was talking to these people, I gave them some pricing, and then suddenly they're just not talking to me anymore. And so, it detects risks like that, like a disengaged stakeholder or somebody that's on the prospect or the lead side of things that is you're working with to actively sell. So it's looking at those types of things. Also slowing momentum as things are moving along. It's kind of figuring out the baseline of how the deals kind of flow through the system and how quickly they move from one place to another. And so it can use that information to detect possible risks. This has got some wobble on it, as some people have called it before, of it might not close. It can also prioritize the opportunities based upon other factors of, this is a big deal that we can close quickly. Maybe it's getting to quarter end. We want to book that revenue as quickly as we can. And so it can prioritize those opportunities so that your sellers are focused on kind of the big deals that you need at this particular moment in time. So Those are some of the things that the agent does today in the preview side of things. But once again, kind of a word of caution, it is preview, so it is subject to change. So you may or may not want to use this. But as I said, I wanted to share it because it's getting so close to going out to general availability that I thought it would be prudent to walk you through those things. So let's pivot and start talking about some of the Copilot activities. And there's going to be Copilot activities within Dynamics 365 itself, and then there's also all of the capabilities that we have and more inside Outlook using the Copilot for Sales add-in. So inside Dynamics 365 Sales, there's obviously email capabilities. If you're using Dynamics 365 Sales, you already know that there's email capabilities, but now Copilot is embedded in those emails. But you'll see here, it'll say, what do we want Copilot to draft? And in that little box, and I couldn't fit it in the screenshot of the email of what I wanted it to say, because that box, and this is kind of one of the limitations currently, that box doesn't expand. So, all of this text that you're seeing here on the screen of draft an introductory email that uses the benefits from the WebSAN webinar that talks about this virtual event, to get them to attend the conference. So I can't see all of that text in there, but then I go off and I click generate, and Copilot goes off and drafts a response. And the response that it drafts, you have some control as to what to alter the draft of the email. So you can see here, when we go into adjust, we can adjust the length of the email. Do we want it shorter, the current medium length, or very long? We want to be very robust and everything else. And then also the tone. So it's adopting a professional tone here. But if it's somebody that maybe you want it to be more personable, more friendly. So, you could use that tone there, and it'll go ahead and adjust the text. But the big thing here is it's not perfect. You're going to want to read the email. I'm stating the obvious. You're going to want to read the email and make sure that it's something that you really stand behind and feel like you want it to communicate. Because, I can tell you that in using this, it puts a lot of courtesies in of, I thank you for your time. And we want to do that. But sometimes it goes a little bit overboard, and we don't want to seem like the cheesy salespeople that are just buttering up the prospect so that they'll buy something from us. So, proofread it, you can edit it, and then once you're satisfied with it, you can go ahead and have it send on out. Just like the normal Dynamics 365 emails, they flow the exact same way. They show up in your sent items in Outlook if you're using Outlook. And it's also shown in the timeline, the list of activities related to the record that you started the activity from. So if I started from an opportunity, it's going to show up in the opportunity timeline, etc. So the big difference between Copilot email capabilities in Dynamics 365 and the Copilot email capabilities in Microsoft Outlook is the way that we draft the emails. So bear with me, because this is a little tongue-in-cheek, if you will, as to, just to illustrate the point of, we can write an email within Microsoft Outlook, and we can write it out. And so here, it's harsh, right? I haven't heard from you in days. I guess the 17 emails I sent are not important enough for you to give me the courtesy of a reply, like drop off the face of the earth. I guess you're not interested. Fine. Let me know if you change your mind. And those of us that had any kind of sales responsibilities in the past or currently, sometimes this is what we want to communicate. But obviously we don't want to do that because it's not going to better our cause. And so that's where Copilot can come in. And I'm preferential to the Copilot coaching option. So you can see in the screenshot, once we've written that email, we go to Copilot. We can choose draft, so it can work similar to what I just showed you within Dynamics 365 Sales. or you can use the coaching option. Like I said, my preference is to use the coaching option. And the only reason why that's my preference is I want to learn based upon what Copilot is suggesting how to write better emails that convey the same thoughts, but in a better way, right? So in this case here, we've wrote this extremely harsh and sarcastic email, and you can see here the tone. You may want to consider expressing concerns instead of irritation, such as, I hope everything's okay, haven't heard from you in a few days, and replace sarcasm with these things, right? So it's giving us some coaching of, this is what you wrote, maybe you might want to say it this way here. And you can go through and look at, the reader sentiment, the clarity, etc. And it may come up with multiple things as you're going along. And so if so, there's kind of like a next page and a next page. So you can toggle through the different suggestions that it has for you and accept the one that you want to use. So you can see here, like, at the bottom, I've chosen apply all suggestions. And so those suggestions that it's giving me are going to get incorporated into my final email. So this is what I wrote originally, over here on the left-hand side. This is what Copilot has suggested, which is, I hope everything's okay. I haven't heard from you a few days. I wanted to follow up about my previous messages to our conference. I understand you're busy, etc. So, it took this harsh, sarcastic text that I wrote and turned it into something that, I don't mind sending on out, because it's certainly not going to upset the reader when they receive that. So, some of the other things that you may want to consider as far as the Outlook add-in with Copilot for Sales, specifically regarding email capabilities, is as you're writing this email, there's no need to save, meaning we don't have to save it back to Dynamics 365, because it says there, so in the gray box there, once you send this email, it'll be saved back. This is going to be a big difference when we talk about appointments in just a second. That's a big change. All of these conversations are automatically tracked within Dynamics 365 Sales. We don't have to do anything. But the downside is that pane that you see there is limited as to how we can personalize or customize it. So if there's pieces of data that you'd want to display in this pane, you can't really do that, or at least not at this point in time. So you kind of get, it is what it is, if you will. But I mean, there's a lot of power, there's a lot of value in it, and so some of those shortcomings, as far as not being able to customize it, show it all on that single pane, they'll eventually be overcome. I'm not promising it, but I would think, if they follow, Microsoft follows past history, they'll be doing that. And then you can always open up the opportunity. So right from that pane, you can drill into the details and drive back into the browser, or on the mobile device, drive into the Dynamics 365 app that might be on your phone. So there's a lot of power there, but I definitely wanted to point out, some of the limitations. So as I said before, when I made that comment about appointments not being saved, emails not being, you don't have to save them before you finish them up or send them, because they'll happen automatically in the background. Appointments is the difference, right? So if we're using Outlook to create appointments and we want those appointments tracked as activities inside Dynamics 365 Sales, you need to make sure that you link it to whatever the record is, so the lead or the opportunity or whatever that might be, and make sure before you click that send on the appointment that green box, so it's this box right here, has shown up that it's actually saved that record. Because if you don't and you send it, your record won't show up within Dynamics 365 Sales in the timeline. So you'll think, it will send the appointment, but it won't track in the timeline. So if you're looking at the history and kind of going back to some of the summary and research capabilities that Dynamics 365 Sales has with Copilot, that appointment is not going to show up in the summary. And so you're not going to get complete information because you didn't wait for that. It's a difference between that email and the appointments. And so, we typically will cover this during user training, user testing, to make sure that people kind of get that muscle memory, if you will, of appointments work a little bit different than appointments work a little bit different than emails. Make sure the appointment saves, then send. On the email side of things, you don't have to worry about it. Once you're finished drafting that email, you can send it right away, and it will automatically be in that timeline. So hopefully, the information that I shared here today, and kind of recapping, we're talking about the activity tracking, both within Dynamics 365 Sales and within Outlook, using Copilot for Sales, that add-in. You'll find those features beneficial. And then also all the research capabilities that you have within the records themselves. And I covered some of the prompting, but also if you're a main user of the browser-based application, on that right-hand side is that that link to open up Copilot, where we can ask Copilot questions about things. And so that's that summary of what's changed and so on. Hopefully you found this information helpful. Certainly reach out to us if you have any questions, if you need any assistance. We're more than happy to help you. And I hope you have a great rest of your conference. Take care.